My dad betrayed me by bribing my teacher to give my brother the lead. I made sure the whole school knew the truth on stage. Hey everyone, my name's Chloe. I'm 17 and I'm a senior at Westview High in a small suburban town. I've always been the theater kid. Ever since I was little, I'd put on little plays for my family in our living room, dressing up in my mom's old scarves and making my parents clap for my dramatic monologues about imaginary princesses. I'd stand on a stool, pretending it was a grand stage, and my dad would always say, "Chloe, you're a natural." That was back when he still paid attention to me. By the time I got to high school, I was basically living for the drama club. I'd been in every school play since freshman year, from a background role in The Wizard of Oz to the lead in Grease last year. Theater was my escape, my passion, my everything. This year, our school was putting on a big spring play, and I had my heart set on the lead role. It was me dream. I'd been preparing for months, memorizing every line, practicing my delivery in front of the mirror, until my reflection probably got sick of me. Even taking extra voice lessons after school to make sure my performance was flawless. I'd stay up late, running through scenes in my head, imagining the applause, the lights, the feeling of finally being the star I knew I could be. Everyone in the club knew I was the front runner. I'd earned it, but I didn't know someone in my own family had other plans. My younger brother Ethan is 15, a sophomore. He's not really into theater. He's more of a soccer guy, always out on the field with his buddies, kicking a ball around until the sun goes down. He's got that effortless charm, the kind that makes teachers and coaches adore him. But this year, out of nowhere, he joined the drama club. I was surprised, to say the least. One day after school, I saw him at the club sign-up table, scribbling his name on the list. I walked over, curious, and asked, "Ethan, what are you doing here? You hate theater." He shrugged, tossing his soccer ball from one hand to the other, and said, "Looks good on college apps, Chloe. Gotta think about my future. Plus, it's just a play. How hard can it be?" I rolled my eyes, but didn't think much of it. Ethan's always been the golden child in our family. My dad, Mark, is a businessman in our town. He owns a small construction company that builds houses in the area. He's always favored Ethan, and it's been that way since we were kids. When Ethan got a C in math last year, Dad hired a tutor, threw him a pizza party when he got his grade up, and even bought him a new pair of soccer cleats as a reward. When I got a C in history, Dad just said, "Work harder, Chloe. You're better than this," and went back to his phone. Mom Lisa is a nurse and usually stays out of it, but she'd always say, "Chloe, your dad just wants the best for both of you." I was used to the double standard, but I never thought it'd mess with something I cared about so much. Auditions for the play were a huge deal. The whole drama club was buzzing with excitement, and our teacher, Mr. Harris, was directing. He's known for being strict but fair, or at least that's what I thought. He's a tall, wiry guy with glasses, always wearing a sweater vest, and he'd been my drama teacher since freshman year. I respected him a lot. He'd always pushed me to be better, telling me I had real talent. The day of auditions, I was a nervous wreck. I'd barely slept the night before, running through my lines over and over in my head. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one I thought made me look like a leading lady, and I'd even practiced my breathing exercises to calm my nerves. When my name was called, I walked onto the stage, the lights blinding me for a second, and I poured my heart into my monologue. It was a big emotional scene, and I gave it everything I had. My voice trembled at just the right moments, and I even teared up on cue. When I finished, the other kids actually clapped. My best friend Mia, who was sitting in the front row, whispered, "Chloe, that was amazing. You've got this in the bag." Even Mr. Harris smiled, a rare thing for him, and said, "Great job, Chloe. You've set a high bar." I felt on top of the world, like I was floating. Ethan auditioned for the male lead right after me, but he stumbled over his lines, forgot half the monologue, and didn't even seem that into it. He kept glancing at his script, his voice flat, like he was reading a grocery list. I wasn't worried. I knew he didn't have a shot. But a week later, the cast list went up on the drama room door, and my world turned upside down. I woke up early that morning, my stomach in knots, so excited to see my name next to the lead role. I ran to school, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floors, and headed straight for the drama room. A small crowd of kids was already gathered around the door, whispering and pointing at the cast list. I pushed my way through, my heart racing with anticipation, a huge smile on my face. I scanned the list for my name, expecting to see it next to the lead role. But when I found it, my smile vanished. I got a supporting role, a minor character with maybe 10 lines total, the kind of role you give to someone who's just there to fill the stage. The lead female role went to a junior named Sarah, who was good but hadn't prepared nearly as much as me. I'd heard her practicing in the hallway, stumbling over her lines. And the male lead? Ethan. My jaw dropped. Ethan, who could barely remember his lines, who didn't even care about theater, who'd only joined the club for his college apps, was now the star of the show. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, my hands trembling as I blinked back tears. Mia came up behind me, her eyes wide with shock. "Chloe, what the hell? You were supposed to be the lead. How did Ethan get the male lead? He was awful." I couldn't answer her. I was too stunned, my throat tight with anger and hurt. Ethan showed up a minute later, his soccer bag over his shoulder, his hair messy from practice. He saw the list and let out a loud, "Yes," like he'd scored a goal. He turned to me with a huge grin, his eyes sparkling. "Chloe, I got the lead. Can you believe it?" He hugged me, his excitement so genuine it made me feel worse. I forced a smile, my lips trembling, and choked out, "Congrats, I guess." He didn't notice how fake it sounded. "Thanks, sis. I'm stoked. This is gonna be so cool." I nodded, but inside I was fuming. There was no way Ethan got that role on his own. Not with that audition. That night at dinner, Ethan was glowing, talking nonstop about how he couldn't wait to rehearse. Dad clapped him on the back, his face beaming with pride. "Proud of you, son. You're gonna shine out there." Mom smiled. "It's nice to see you two doing something together." I couldn't hold it in anymore. I dropped my fork, the clatter loud against my plate, and looked at Dad, my voice shaking. "Did you talk to Mr. Harris or something? 'Cause there's no way Ethan got that role on his own." The table went quiet. Dad laughed, but it was too quick, too forced. "Chloe, don't be dramatic. Ethan earned it fair and square." But I saw the look in his eyes, a flicker of guilt. I knew he was hiding something. I couldn't let it go. I worked too hard, poured too much of myself into this, to just accept it. After dinner, I went to my room, locked the door, and sat on my bed, staring at my script, marked up with notes and highlights. Thought about all the nights I'd stayed up late, practicing until my voice was hoarse, all the times I'd skipped hanging out with friends to rehearse, all the dreams I'd had of standing on that stage as the lead, and now it was gone, handed to someone who didn't even care. I needed to know the truth. The next day, I started digging. I talked to Sarah after school, pulling her aside in the hallway, my hands fidgeting with my backpack straps. "Sarah, did you hear anything about why I didn't get the lead?" She hesitated, her eyes darting around to make sure no one was listening, then sighed. "Chloe, I overheard Mr. Harris talking to another teacher after auditions. He said your dad called him and really pushed for Ethan to get the role. I think that's why I got mine." To make it less obvious, my stomach dropped. "My own dad?" I thanked her, my voice barely a whisper, and walked away, my mind racing. I had to find proof. I knew I couldn't confront Dad without solid evidence. He'd deny everything, and Mom would probably take his side, like she always did when it came to Ethan. I needed something concrete, something he couldn't talk his way out of. Mr. Harris always used his office computer to email the cast list to the drama club. So I figured there might be something there, a paper trail, an email, anything to confirm my suspicions. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I was desperate. The next day, I stayed late after drama club, pretending I needed to practice my lines for my small role. I waited until most of the kids had left, the hallways quiet, except for the faint hum of the janitor's vacuum in the distance. Mr. Harris was still in his office, but I saw him grab his coffee mug and head toward the teacher's lounge. "I'll be right back, Chloe," he called over his shoulder. "Don't touch anything." I nodded, forcing a smile, but the second he was out of sight, I slipped into his office, my heart pounding in my chest. The room smelled like old books and stale coffee, and his desk was a mess of scripts and sticky notes. My hands were shaking as I sat at his computer, the chair creaking under me. The screen was still on, his email already open. He hadn't even logged out. I typed my dad's name, Mark Thompson, into the search bar, my fingers trembling. A few emails popped up, mostly about school fundraisers, but then I saw it, an email from Dad, sent the day after auditions, with the subject line, drama club casting. I clicked it open, my breath catching in my throat. It read, "Mr. Harris, thanks for your time. As we discussed on the phone, I think Ethan would be great for the lead role. He's been needing a confidence boost, and this could really help him shine. I'd be happy to support the drama club with a donation for costumes if needed. Just let me know what you need." My blood boiled as I read the words. It wasn't a direct bribe, but the implication was clear. Dad had used his influence to sway Mr. Harris. He'd basically bought Ethan's role, knowing how much the lead meant to me, knowing how hard I'd worked for it. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking with anger. I took a screenshot on my phone, emailing it to myself just to be safe, and quickly closed the tab. I was out of the office and back in the hallway, script in hand, just as Mr. Harris returned. "Still here, Chloe?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just running lines," I mumbled, my voice shaky. He nodded and went back to his desk, none the wiser. I couldn't sleep that night. The email replaying in my head, the words burning into my memory. I wanted more proof, something undeniable. So I decided to talk to Mr. Harris directly, to get him on record. The next day at rehearsal, I waited until we were on a break. The other kids scattered around the auditorium, chatting and laughing. I walked up to Mr. Harris, who was scribbling notes on his clipboard, his glasses slipping down his nose. I took a deep breath, my phone secretly recording in my pocket, and said, "Mr. Harris, can I ask you something?" He looked up, adjusting his glasses. "Of course, Chloe, what's up?" I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why didn't I get the lead? Was it my audition? I thought I did well." He looked nervous, his eyes darting around, then sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Chloe, you were great. Honestly, your audition was one of the best. But your dad really wanted Ethan to stand out. He called me, said it'd mean a lot to the family, and I had to make some tough calls. I'm sorry." I felt a mix of validation and rage, my heart pounding. "So you gave Ethan the role because of my dad?" I pressed, my voice sharper. He hesitated, then nodded slightly, his expression guilty. "It was a factor, yes." I thanked him, my voice tight, and walked away, stopping the recording. Now I had everything I needed. The email, Mr. Harris's confession, and a burning desire to make them pay. That night, I waited until Mom and Ethan were in bed. The house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I went to Dad in his study, where he was going through invoices, a glass of whiskey in his hand. I closed the door behind me and said, "We need to talk." He looked up, annoyed. "Chloe, it's late. What is it?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the email screenshot, and said, "How could you do this? I worked so hard for that role, and you just handed it to Ethan." He didn't flinch. He leaned back in his chair, took a sip of his drink, and said, "Chloe, Ethan needed a win. He's been struggling with confidence lately, and this will help him. You'll have other chances. Don't make a big deal out of this." I couldn't believe it. "A big deal? You took my dream for him. Do you even care how I feel?" He sighed, his tone dismissive. "You're being dramatic. Go to bed." I was shaking with rage, tears burning in my eyes. Ethan overheard from the hallway. I saw him standing there, his face pale. He mumbled, "I didn't ask him to do that, Chloe." But he didn't offer to give up the role. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to let this slide. They'd crossed a line, and I was going to make them pay. I was done playing the good sister, the good daughter, the one who always let things slide to keep the peace. Dad thought he could pull strings for Ethan at my expense, and Ethan was fine with it, even if he claimed he didn't ask for it. They'd humiliated me, taken something I'd worked so hard for, and I was going to make them regret it. I had the email screenshot and the recording of Mr. Harris admitting the truth, but I wanted my revenge to hit hard, to be something they couldn't ignore. I spent the next few days planning, my anger simmering but focused. I thought about confronting them privately, but that wouldn't be enough. They needed to feel the same public shame I'd felt when I saw that cast list, the same sting of humiliation I'd felt watching Ethan celebrate a role he didn't deserve. I needed to expose their favoritism for the whole town to see. The play was in 2 weeks, but the school had a big talent showcase a few days before, a huge event where the whole town showed up. Parents, teachers, the principal, even some local news people covering the future stars of Westview High were there, their cameras ready. It was the perfect stage for my plan. I spent hours putting together a presentation on my laptop, my hands shaking with nerves and determination. I included the email screenshot, the recording of Mr. Harris, and a timeline of how I'd prepared for the role. The late nights memorizing lines, the extra voice lessons I'd paid for with my babysitting money, the weekends I'd spent rehearsing instead of hanging out with friends. I added photos of my script, covered in my handwritten notes, to show how much this meant to me. I titled the presentation, "Fairness in Our School, A Story of Favoritism," and signed up for a special announcement slot at the showcase. Mia, my best friend, was the only one I told. We sat in my room the night before, going over the slides, and she hugged me tightly. "Chloe, you're so brave. They deserve this." I wasn't sure if I was brave or just furious, but I knew I had to do it. The night of the showcase, the auditorium was packed, the air buzzing with excitement. I sat in the back, my laptop clutched to my chest, watching the other acts, a freshman playing the violin, a group of cheerleaders doing a dance routine, a junior singing a ballad. My stomach was in knots, but I kept telling myself, "You've got this. They can't get away with it." When my name was called, I walked on stage, my legs trembling under my black dress, the one I'd worn to my audition. The lights were blinding, and I could feel hundreds of eyes on me. I took a deep breath, plugged my laptop into the projector, and said, "Hi, everyone. My name's Chloe Thompson, and I want to share something about fairness in our school." The room went quiet. I clicked to the first slide, showing the email from my dad, and read it out loud, my voice steady. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then I played the recording of Mr. Harris, his voice echoing, "Your dad really wanted Ethan to stand out." I had to make some tough calls, more whispers, a few shocked murmurs. I showed my timeline, my script photos, and explained how I'd prepared for the lead role, only to have it taken away because my dad pressured Mr. Harris to give it to Ethan. I finished with, "I'm not here to cause drama. I'm here because I believe in fairness. I hope this never happens to anyone else." The crowd erupted. Some clapped, others whispered. A few parents shouted, "That's not right." I saw Ethan in the audience, his face pale, his hands clenched, looking like he wanted to disappear. Dad was in the back, his face red with anger, his arms crossed tightly. The fallout was instant. The next day, the principal called an emergency meeting with the school board, reviewing my evidence. They launched an investigation into the casting process, and Mr. Harris got a formal warning for letting a parent influence his decisions. The school board recast the play. Sarah and I were made co-leads, split in the role, and Ethan was demoted to a minor role with barely any lines, just a background character. Ethan was furious. He cornered me in the hallway after school, his eyes red, his voice shaking. "You happy now, Chloe? You ruined everything. I didn't even want the role." I shot back. "Then why didn't you give it up when you found out what Dad did? You knew I deserved it." He didn't answer, just stormed off, slamming his locker shut. Dad's reputation took a hit. He's a businessman, and word spread fast in our town. The local paper ran a story about favoritism at Westview High, hinting at a parent's influence. Some of Dad's clients backed off, saying they didn't trust him. I heard him on the phone one night, yelling at a client, "It's a misunderstanding," but the damage was done. At home, things got tense. Dad barely looked at me, and when he did, it was with a cold, disappointed stare. Mom tried to play peacemaker, saying, "Chloe, you did what you thought was right, but maybe you could have handled it privately." I shook my head. "They needed to know, Mom. I don't feel great about what I did. I lost Dad's respect, and Ethan and I might never be the same. He hasn't spoken to me in weeks, but I stood up for myself. They thought they could take my dream and get away with it, but I showed them sometimes the quiet kid on stage has the loudest voice."